Welcome, everyone. So thank you for being part of today's panel discussion from our former TechDA talk. So I'm very excited to be part of it. Today, we've brought together some panel of experts who will shed light on the implications of the end of third-party cookies for marketers. So our discussion today will focus on methods, but also practical tips on how to collect first-party data and also how you can effectively use them to drive new revenue streams, but also to develop marketing strategies. So before we jump right into it, just a quick overview about our amazing speakers today. So starting with the user-centric side, we have Tilman Hameling, senior expert privacy. So having focused on the business and technical complexities of privacy throughout his career, Tilman has gained significant and diverse experience in how privacy markets work. So he joined User-Centrics in 2018 as a senior expert privacy. His goals are to understand the ever-changing privacy landscape and find new opportunities for innovation. And to achieve this goal, he works with global enterprises, universities, and market experts like Gartner and Forrester. Then we also have in today's session Kai Lehmann. So Kai is the managing director of Convalytics, which he founded in 2011, and whose goal is to help companies increase their online success with in-depth expertise in the areas of web analytics, conversion optimization, and data-driven online marketing. In doing so, Convalytics supports its customer both in the introduction and professional use of suitable analytics systems and in the establishment of data-driven business optimization and online marketing processes as part of their digital transformation. So thanks for being part of it today. Then from the map side, we have Thomas Kalina, a senior solution consultant. Thomas has been working as a consultant and project manager in digital marketing for more than 15 years. He has a long track record of implementing data-driven and cross-channel marketing projects, as well as KPI frameworks for large companies. He has a great expertise in web analytics and in generating and leveraging insights. After working at WebTrends, Thomas has worked for WebTrack since 2018. Following the WebTrack acquisition by Map, he is now, as I said before, senior solution consultant for the entire group. And then last but not least, myself, who will host the session today. So I'm working as a strategic partner manager at User-Centrics. My name is Hannah Sorg, and I'm managing our largest partnerships, especially in the DACH region. So I'm helping our partners to capitalize on new business opportunities by integrating data privacy compliance solutions into their portfolios. So I'm responsible for the partner KPIs, and I'm also leading co-marketing activities to accelerate their business growth. So then I would say let's jump right into it with our discussion today. So starting with you, Tilman, I have a question. What is going on in the data privacy market? Can you give our audience an update about that?
Yeah, good point. Maybe I start a little bit with a more theoretical approach to that. In general, when we here at User-Centrics are taking a look at markets, we are fundamentally taking a look at three big players, to say it like this. One is the user centricity part. So obviously, like our name, which means what is going on there. And fundamentally, I can give you one example that we've seen over the coming years in terms of the behavior in our own cookie banners. So the first time we did an analysis throughout our cookie banners and the behavior on how many people denied it, how many people actually pressed the more information button, we saw that it was between 1% and 2%. We did the exact same study to have a look who is actually pressing on the more information button, but 3 years later. It was quite interesting because this number doubled to tripled. So users are more and more interested into their own happenings with the data. What are companies actually doing with it? And it's not just that we see it in our own data, it's also that we could see it from a regulatory perspective, because regulators especially the data protection authorities in that case, they're giving out yearly activity reports on the numbers of files and complaints in there. And these numbers were growing and growing and growing year after year in many, many different DPAs. We could see it in France with the CNIL, the Garante in Italy, but also the German data protection authority. So the majority of them, besides a couple of others, we saw a growing amount of numbers. So the significance of privacy is there and obviously growing. On the other side, what we see are the big tech players and the happenings there. So for example, we see obviously the Google Privacy Sandbox and some new solutions in that area, which are quite interesting. We see Apple's privacy strategy, the ATT framework, which they developed some years ago. But fundamentally, this brings us to one big topic that we really would like to discuss also today, which is the cookieless world, which was described not just obviously by Google and the Chrome browser, but also by Firefox, for example. So the cookieless world will be something that is still a very, very present topic.
Yeah, thanks for the overview. So, I mean, to sum up, we can see that there's a trend towards more privacy, but there's still the end of third-party data. So I don't know, Kai or Thomas, who wants to start first, can you give us an overview about what companies should know about like the end of third-party cookies, but also what are zero or first-party data?
Will you start, Thomas?
Okay, I can start. Yes. So, the change of the third-party data and the data privacy is indeed something that is a significant shift in the landscape, and all companies have to think about what they should do right now, and also think about how to get around this new situation, because it's not get around is maybe the wrong sentence. Think about how to improve your the marketing activities with that new situation, because a change like that is not nothing new. In the past, we also had changes like Google removed the organic search phrases from the tracking requests. And I remember it was 10 years ago, there was a huge fear in the online marketing world. How should I measure my online search results, and to be how to measure my success in search? And yes, we survived. We are still here, and you see, I'm here since 15 years, and I also have still my job. So it is a chance to make something new. But to be honest, you have to do something. And first thing is to establish something, which is a governance, thinking about how to go forward with the data. So making rules, how you behave with, or how you collect data, what the best practices are to be compliant with data storage and data collecting, and at the end also be transparent. This is also what Tilman said before. The people looking for the button or click on the button for more info, and there you have to be there you have the chance to be transparent and to be a loyal partner for your customers. So if they see, hey, I know how they behave or what they do with my data, what kind of data they collect and how long they store that data, they be most likely to be positive towards data or giving away data. And the second thing is, as something a bit like I mentioned before, see that not be afraid to be losing third-party data, and see the first-party data as a chance, because it is a unique asset. First-party data is completely for you. Your competitors don't have that information, so you know your customers, you know how they behave, or how their shopping behavior is, or their website behavior is, and you can use that. And this is an opportunity you should use in your current marketing.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Kai, you also wanted to say something, but maybe you can give our audience a quick overview about what are first-party data, because I think maybe not everyone is aware of that.
Of course. First off, all said, Thomas. Thank you. I totally agree. First-party data. What means it, or what does it mean? For me, first-party data is one of the big chances in the market right now for companies and customers and clients as well. Why? First-party data means it is all of the data you're measuring on and generating on your own, maybe your website. Yeah, a visitor comes to a website, he views some pages, he does some clicks. With the use of the web analytics software like Google Analytics, like Map Intelligence, like as well, whatever you can mention, you are measuring those data to get to know your customers, your clients, and that is the gold of data, your first-party data. So, and why is this a chance? In a history or in the past, it was easy to push your online marketing with budget. Yeah? We were there relying on third-party cookies, as you know. We are pushing our online marketing campaigns with more budget, and we were relying heavily on the data which was created by third parties, like mentioned, the big fours like Facebook, like Amazon, like Google. And today, you have the chance to leverage your data, your first-party data for your marketing. And this is quite new, quite exhausting, and I think a big chance.
Thank you. Timur, do you want to add something about the first-party data? I mean, we also have this topic a lot at Usercentrics. Or
good point. To be honest, I would say right now most of it is said. From our perspective, though, I would say in the context of transparency and trust, there are a lot of things quite important that we should discuss also in terms of using first-party data. But I guess, to be honest, I guess this will come up during the conversation anyways.
Okay, perfect. I think everyone is aware now. Kai, do you want to add something?
No, not yet. I think we can go on and discuss some more interesting questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I wanted to say is, with all of these updates and developments, I think it must be really hard to keep track for end users. So my question is, how can we ensure that the end customers or like the end users understand what is going on? Timon, do you have an idea for that?
Yeah, makes sense, especially from the privacy perspective. Talking especially about the topic of trust here, this is something that fundamentally is impacted. The point basically is that whenever an end user comes together with the company, there is a belief of trust somehow. So before I buy a car, for example, I trust that the car works. I trust that the car gives me a specific emotion or a specific feeling. I trust that the support of this car company will support me in any kind of solutions. But obviously, there is this new option, which was very much growing in terms of privacy. It's the trust in the context of privacy and data protection. And as we elaborated before, it's growing and growing and growing. And this is fundamentally something that you can increase by using specific tools like privacy user experience elements, like a cookie banner or a privacy policy, for example. But before we are hopping a little bit deeper into this area, also in the research that we are doing in the past here, there were basically two big differentiations from a theoretical perspective. And one is the point of transparency, and the other thing is the point of clarity. And transparency means that I could explain to you what I'm doing with your data, which could be a very, very complex thing. It could need up to 500 pages. But the question is, does it confuse you? Will you actually understand it? Is it a clear thing? You see, according to the digital advertising report of Statista, right now, what we are doing is we're creating in the online world 87% of the ad tech revenue is created by programmatic advertising. And you see the complexity is basically right there, because programmatic advertising is something which is super complex. I mean, you're going to a website, you are clicking on a couple of things, you browse a little bit around, and then there is data about you created, and it is basically evaluated. It is taken a look how relevant this kind of data is, and it is, you can bid on it, and then at the end it's sold and it's shown on another publisher's website that should track you again. So it's basically, this is a very, very short version, a very, very simplified approach here, and try to make this understandable for the end user, which is very much our goal here. And what we've seen in the past, a couple of attempts. There are also essays from universities about it, talking about how to use an entertainment perspective. Can we solve this through comics, for example? Can we use it from an iconization perspective? Yeah, so little tiny icons that you understand on an international approach. A big thing that is currently discussed are also contextual privacy. It's a little bit like contextual advertising. So an advertising while I'm reading a tennis article, basically there I see a tennis ad. And it can work very, very similar from a privacy perspective to say, while you're watching a specific video in the context, in order to use YouTube, you need to give consent to YouTube, for example. So in general, right now, we are in the big step of making users also understand why we are creating data about them, and give them a choice and a clear picture on what we will do with the data. And I think first-party data is actually something also that could really help here, because it's a little bit more understandable than tracking third-party data in the end, where the data is flowing all over the ecosystem. But also the topic of data minimalization and limitation of data, we should bring them up here.
Yeah, makes sense. So to be honest, I really like these new approaches, like the comics, but also like the icons, because to be honest, I think it's super boring to read like a data policy. It's also not really easy to understand. So yeah, I think the point with privacy is basically that there is also a limited amount of data. So brings us also to the next point. How can we make sure to identify relevant data, Thomas? Do you have an idea for that?
I'd like to start with a counter question. So what data is irrelevant? So everything is relevant when you're in marketing and want to bring out personalized content or provide a good customer experience. So when you want to go that way, you need to first start to identify your data. Make an audit of your data sources and look what kind of data you can collect legally. So as we talk about first-party data, so we talk about consent also. And when we look at the data we have, it must be legal, of course, but regardless if it is anonymized and we have just a cookieless session that we are looking for or we have a customer who consenting cookies and we can do a more precise view on a session cross-session behavior or even cross-device behavior. So this is something that you need to identify at the beginning. So what kind of data you have, and then make your insights out of that. And once you have your insights, then you can be more precise with the data you can work with. So you can display personalized content in terms of product recommendations if you have a website where you sell something. Or is it just the content that you display based on the referrer? If you know someone came to your website the second time or the third time, but you know the initial campaign or referrer was a specific topic or belongs to a specific topic, then you can follow that. If the customer is new and completely anonymized, even though you can customize, personalize the content based on the user behavior during the session. So back to your question, identify relevant data. So I think everything is relevant, and I think Kai will say the same with his experience. It is absolutely everything is relevant, but you need to be careful that you are allowed to use that data. But when you have the data, use that for insights or get your insights and use it for personalization.
Yeah. So we know that all data is relevant, but maybe Kai, can you give us some best practices out there how we can activate them, for example?
Activate, yes. First off, I want to start with the measuring because this is quite important for me because you asked the question how we can identify relevant data. And as Thomas mentioned, I think first off, you have to do some kind of a KPI workshop to do that. Yeah, maybe together with a consultant or anything or any similar. The thing is, you have to identify your first party data touch points and what want you to do. What do you want to measure? That's a sentence. Sorry. And after you're finished to identify your KPIs, you can put them in your, I call it data storage tiers, yes, because typically you have 4 tiers of data. You have anonymous data, you have pseudonymous data, you have pseudonymous data with marketing consent, for instance, and usually you have customer data, yeah, which is measured after I log in. You have a stable identifier there, and I think most of you knows what I mean. And the thing is, all data is relevant, but it depends what you can do with the data. Yeah, first, as Thomas already said, we have anonymous data. Yeah, not very much information, but there is information. Yeah, and the trick is to push my clients due to the funnel from anonymous data to pseudonymous data, which comes to Tillmann's suggestion, contextual content. Yeah, give them what they like, maybe in terms of personalization at the point they want it. Yeah, maybe at a product listing or similar. Yeah, so that's what will happen, or that will happen, and help was the right word. This will help in terms of leveraging the data and your clients. Yeah, your visitors more or less to become a client. Yeah, and back to the 4 tiers. In each tier, you're allowed to do a little bit more with a client. And there's the best practice. What can I do with pseudonymous data when I can use a cookie, but I have no marketing consent? Yeah. Sometimes we're thinking about A/B testing. Sometimes we're thinking about personalization. Maybe not with a third-party vendor in that case. Maybe with your own CMS. Yes, it's possible. As long or as soon as you have marketing consent and a pseudonymous user, you can do remarketing, maybe with a lack of third-party cookies. You can maybe give the data to Facebook in terms of doing like a lookalike targeting or similar. And last but not least, when you have your customer data, you're allowed to do nearly everything if the customer gave consent. So you can do email marketing, you can do personalization based on third-party engines, and so on and so forth. So evolving through the tiers for a customer on the one hand, on the other hand, scaling up your tool set, your possibilities to talk to your customer and to your client, or at least to your visitor. I think that's the most relevant part in that case.
Thanks for sharing. So we talked about leveraging data. So my question would be, how significant are data centralization and activation in that context? Thomas, maybe you.
Yep. So centralization of data. From my experience, or what I see very often when I'm talking to customers or prospects, they have different marketing channels, and for each marketing channel they have their own team, and all the teams are working independently. But what they also have, all the teams have their own good data quality. So, for example, the website owner, they have web analytics data, very very detailed, very accurate. We have the email marketing departments or departments. They know their customers in terms of open rate, click-through rate. Then they have the store, local stores, if they have any, as a point of sale. They know what the customers are doing there, what they're looking, what they are buying in the shops. Then they have the CRM system, the loyalty program. You see, I can talk about many different departments and channels, but what they all have in common is they are independent. They are looking at their own independent stuff. And on the other hand, so let's break here with the companies thinking about a cinema movie, which is Ocean 11. So there's the same. You have a lot of experts. One is an expert in whatever, playing cards and talking and having good ideas. One could open whatever. So you have a lot of different experts, and all as a team are successful. And the same as in the marketing department. If they work closely together, they will become successful. And of course, the company will become successful. And here, this is why I say it is important to combine all these channels and make a centralized data approach. Because when you centralize your data at the point of your customer with first-party data, and if you want to extend it using zero-party data, but it's not the topic of today, let's stay with first-party data. So you have all this information about one customer. You know the visitor behavior on the website. You have the email behavior, the open rate, click-through rate. When someone clicks on an email on the web behavior part, you see the correlation between it. You can add social or paid media campaigns to that and to see how the customer journey is across different touch points. You have your point of sale where you see the offline orders, and all that combination gives you a picture of a visitor that you can use for your marketing activities. For instance, looking for visitors if they're in terms of RFM models. So are they loyal because they spend a lot of money and ordering very often and frequently, or are they changing and going down the funnel towards a former loyal customer who is about to churn? And then you have different between this top and bottom levels, you have different shapes where you have let's say different target groups you can address based on that data. And these data came from different sources, and then you can bring in the right message to the right time. Same is for loyalty programs. If you say, hey, is this member, you see, is this customer within a loyalty program, which is the level, and can I extend the level somehow, or can I bring in other customers into this loyalty program? And all this is based on data that is relied somewhere in the company, but not connected. So we need to connect this data to become these, let's say, customer-centric, customer-focused company.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's the one hand. I think the other hand in integrating and centralizing data is, I think every online marketer is sad because losing the third-party cookies. Yeah, and they try to circumvent this. Yeah, what was happened there, and now they're stitching visitors, yeah, and centralized data with IDs, maybe stable identifiers from their own login, maybe together with the help of ID networks. Yeah, doesn't matter what the name is of that ID network, or other third-party information, even with heuristics. Yes, to have an idea when a visitor comes to me one time, can I see him next time again, or maybe re-recognize him again? Yeah, not even on my website, maybe on my app. Cross-device tracking is the keyword here. Website versus app, maybe in another channel also. Yeah, so therefore you need a very centralized data source, or database where all, maybe at least or at best, all of your data is in. web analysis data or web analytics data, CRM data, your order data, and so on and so forth. Maybe even offline data, yeah, can be in there if it's possible. And then stitch the visitors with the use of a lot of different factors and attributes, yeah? And with the use of each of those attributes and how they work together, you can have a lot more stable data to do the same as you've done before. So more or less. And I think that's one of the most important points in data centralization and yeah, to activate it in that way.
Yeah. Thanks, Kai and Thomas, for the overview. Maybe Tim, on to you. What about consent?
Good point. I also wanted to go after here. The point is quite good. I mean, Thomas, you started very much to discuss the points of first-party data. Kai, you added a couple of approaches, going a little bit deeper into there. What else you can do, adding ID, logins, etc. into this place. Obviously, and this is a trend that we have also seen in the last years. For example, with we had German companies, so I usually bring the car manufacturing examples. We've also heard this a couple of times, that a company also sometimes through consultancy is coming to us and especially asking about this approach. Can we bring our data sets together using our website, our application, and partly in this case our IoT products, here in this case our cars. Can we align all of this information somehow? Because obviously you do have a website, you do have an app, and in this app you can potentially already decide what should be the temperature in your car when you enter your car in the winter, in the morning, every morning. And this application learns and potentially at a specific point in time, this app knows, or this whole company knows something about the visitor, because there are specific habits that you can target. The user's always going to a specific location. The user always wants a specific temperature in the car. The user always picks up a specific person at a specific point, kind of. And it's not just car manufacturers, but for sure, we also saw it in a couple of other companies in the sports industry, but also in the manufacturing industry in general. And obviously, yes, bringing all of this kind of data is interesting. Also, the outcome, yeah, what are you doing with all of the knowledge of the users in there? But obviously, many of these things need consent. And this is why it's actually quite interesting to discuss these points, because bringing all the data in a centralized approach together is one thing. Obviously, adding consent is then another privacy and data protection layer that we clearly see there, and that we also clearly need. So we are talking about the consent, data protection part, but also sometimes, if I can go one step further, what we've seen there additional to data protection is that customers are more and more actually asking for preferences. Thomas, you already mentioned the zero-party data approach very quickly. Zero-party data is also going into effect here. If you're centralizing data, zero-party would be, I'm actively asking an end user, what do you want? Do you prefer brown shoes versus blue shoes? How often do you actually would like to see a newsletter, for example? And this also, at least from our data protection and privacy perspective, belongs here into the way of data centralization and also activation.
Yeah. So I would really like to continue speaking about the topic. I really love the discussion, but we already reached more than 30 minutes. But to close this discussion, I would just like to hear from all of you, like, can you give us a look into the future? What's really important, or like what businesses need to know what's coming in the next month, years? Yeah, who wants to start? Kai.
Oh,
Okay,
Or like Thomas. Thomas
let me
also,
take
okay.
the approach. Yeah, thank you. First off, we don't know. We don't know what will happen in the future when it comes to techniques and when it comes to the legal part. I think first off, we have to be or have a clear eye or a close eye on what happened in the market, especially when it comes to the development in legislation. That's the first thing. But to be honest, we are very technical focused at Convalytics. So on the practical side, I think it makes sense to move your entire data to a centralized solution, a database or SaaS. And when this solution is able to cover all of the 4 tiers of data I've already mentioned before, and it is able to provide you a wide range of interfaces to other tools in order to directly activate those data, out of the tool, measuring, segmentation, activation of the data within one tool, maybe, with the possibility to store consent between to distinguish between those 4 tiers and what is allowed to do with the data, I think then you're on the right way. And then we're speaking more or less about a CDP or a highly integrated system, which allows you to do on-site personalization, email marketing, delivering segments to third-party vendors out of one hand, out of the box. And I think that's a good plan for the future.
Thomas.
As I mentioned before, regardless what's happening in the future, what kind of regulations will come up, and what kind of technology will be allowed or not, and what will be removed, and what features are allowed or not, marketing will be there. So there's no reason to be afraid. But we need to be sure, or we need to consider that we need to change something. Not sure what it is, but currently it is basically a move to data that are first or zero-party data. Third-party data is definitely, and this is not a secret anymore, will go away. And that means that we have to think about centralizing the data, but not only in my company, so not only my own data sources, but we need to think about centralizing different sources that are maybe outside, but always thinking about the legal aspect here. And then the technology might change from day to day, but I think the browsers will play a big role here. We see that currently with Firefox and Google, what they're currently doing or having a beta or development. But anyway, data is a big asset we have. It is our own asset that we have, that we need to use, and I think that is the way it goes forward.
Thank you, Timon. Your final words.
Yeah.
To that.
Good point. Actually, I would like to end in the way I kind of started, with the 3 big drivers in the market. Obviously, from the regulatory perspective, I'll make it very, very short. We will see here in Europe the European Data Strategy, which is, for example, the Digital Markets Act, the Digital Services Act, the AI Act. So for sure, we see further regulations that are tackling the consent area, the privacy area, data protection area, and therefore also the area of interoperability between companies. What we see, especially in the Digital Services Act, for example, which can be beneficial for one essential point, and it's the point that we discussed previously, the data centralization. So obviously we have no idea how the future will evolve, but data centralization can be a very, very essential point here, because you need less data sources, you need less tools to take a look into, which makes it way, way easier to inform the end user, and this information of the end user is right now, when we are talking to data protection authorities, to universities, etc., it's clearly a fundamental point that needs to be solved. And given the evolutions of the privacy regulations and their formulation right now, it will be more complex. So the thing is, how can you actually simplify it? And data centralization can be a very, very big and also important point here. So I will stick with data centralization.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. I really liked the discussion. It was really interesting, and I think there's a lot of stuff coming in the next months and years. So yeah, we also have this slide here at the end. So if you want to reach out to our amazing speakers, you find the links to their LinkedIn profile, but also to the company sites. And we also have a white paper, which is on the MEP side about, it's like a marketer's guide for first-party data, how you can move forward, how you can use them as a competitive advantage, etc. So just scan the QR code and then you can reach out. So also thank you for being part of our discussion today. And yeah, looking forward to speak to you again very soon, maybe. Let's see. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hannah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Bye.